Anna Delvey, also known as Anna Sorokin, was a Russian-born, German-way immigrant to the United States in the mid-2000s. She faked her way to the top of Manhattan's elites and scammed both friends and businesses out of over $200,000. She was sentenced to 2 years in Rikers Island, state of New York, and has been released and is now pending deportation back to Germany by the United States Immigration Service. At last update that I had, I did a video on this back in 2020. I thought it was a very fascinating case, and I'm recutting it and revamping it for you because Netflix has just dropped or will drop, I'm not sure of the date of this release, the brand new series, limited series, Inventing Anna by Grey's Anatomy creator Shonda Rhimes, and I'm sure there's going to be a refascination with the case. But before you get sucked up into the Hollywood version, let's look at the real case today on Keto and Krime.
Keto and Krime, Keto and Krime. We uncover the grime on Keto and Krime. Keto and Krime, Keto and Krime. Now is the time for Keto and Krime.
Hey everyone, Tracy here from Keto and Krime. Thank you so much to every single one of my patrons and channel members. You make this possible. And you're one of the reasons I do this. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if I haven't said it before, thank you. I'll sing it. Thank you. Thank you for hanging in there with me and letting me geek out, not making fun of me like a lot of other people do, because I like weird stuff about crime and dark history. Thanks, everyone. Hey, everyone. Tracy Barkley here. Thank you so much for joining me here on YouTube and Thought Crime, as well as BitChute. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Today, we're going to look at a case that's has been widely publicized and will soon be highly publicized because a brand new series based on this is coming to Netflix, which is why I decided to go ahead and cover it at this time. But today we're going to talk about the Queen of Grifters, Anna Delvey. This is a story of a young woman who was able to fool all of Manhattan's social society into believing she was a billionaire heiress and essentially didn't have a penny to her name. So let's get into it. Anna was born Anna Sorokin to Vadim and Anna Sorokin, a truck driver and housewife, in the Moscow suburb of Domodedovo, Russia, January 23rd, 1991. At the age of 16, they moved to Germany, where her father continued as a truck driver and also branched into welding, and also eventually owned his own logistics and trucking company, and a heating, air conditioning, and ventilation company, HVAC company. And so basically Anna mainly had what you would consider a very solid middle-class upbringing on the blue-collar side. Not extravagant, not ultra-rich, but certainly not poor. She had an average growing up in the European suburbs. As I said, at age 16, she moved to Germany, where she attended high school, and it was noted by her classmates that she'd had a very hard time learning the German language, and also seemed to be obsessed with the TV Mean Girls, which a lot of girls at that age were. If you're not familiar with Mean Girls, it was a tale about a group of high school bullies that basically got their way by bullying others around. And it was noted that Anna was highly obsessed, whose name was, I believe, Rachel. So she was noted as kind of bullying around her classmates. There was one girl that reportedly came in from recess one day with tiny little pinch wounds all over her arms, and when asked what happened, she said Anna had been pinching her. So definitely Anna had
some issues, just to be nice about it. So, and again, back to Mean Girls. If you really don't want to bother Googling it, see what it is. If you're of my generation, Generation X, the movie Heathers, the Heathers, very akin to what Mean Girls were. But I don't see any of us idolizing any of the Heathers from that movie. But anyway, that's kind of the upbringing she had. She was always very obsessed with fashion and money and the finer things in life. She got an internship once she moved to England. She graduated high school in 2011, attended art school in England, art and design school, where she was able to secure a internship with a Paris fashion startup, Purple magazine, which enabled her to move to Paris in 2013. After a year in Paris working as an unpaid intern for Purple, she was able to secure a paid position in their New York City office, which brought her to New York City in late 2013, early 2014, and that's where it really starts to get spicy. During her short time working for Purple, she was introduced to the very glitzy, kitschy, cliquey New York art and fashion scene. Now, I've spent a little bit of time in New York City, and I can tell you those ain't my people. The art world is very selective, you have to have money to participate in the art world, as well as in the fashion world. That stuff you see on like Project Runway and those things, it's not too far from the truth. You have to have money to be an artist or a fashion designer in New York City, and working for a fashion and art magazine like Purple, she was able to participate in that world without having any money. So she saw the benefits that at least perception of wealth could bring to you in that world. And she desperately wanted to be a part of that world because she was an artist at heart. So she changed her name from Sorokin to Delvey and began to make connections and kind of ingratiate herself into that world, free of charge for a little while. But then the job started to get in her way a little bit, so she ended up quitting her job at Purple. And you may be thinking, how could she make a living? Well, this is where all of her deception and ability to con people come in. She began telling people that instead of being the daughter of a middle-class truck driver turned HVAC company owner, she was actually the daughter of a billionaire father who made his fortune. She told some people in the oil industries, told some people in solar panels, and told some people it was inherited wealth. So
had no reason to doubt her big spending new friend came from wealth, given her jet-setting lifestyle and big ambitions.
She wanted to lease this giant building to house an art collection, a gallery space, members only lounge. She referred to this family trust she had, which I didn't pry about, but it sort of informed my understanding of her.
She figured she had money.
Yes.
She came from money.
And that came out over time.
She started telling different people this different story, because you got to imagine, she's at these big galas. She made these contacts so that they knew her as the girl from Purple, so she could get on these guest lists and tell this to all these people that have money to burn. So she started telling people she was wealthy, and she started hanging out even more with this art crowd. In the midst of all this, she decided she wanted to make her own splash in the art world, so she took it upon herself to attempt to buy the Church Missions House, which is a well-known historical building in Manhattan on Park Avenue and 22nd Street. Very pronounced, very there. This would be a $22 million purchase. So she set about trying to secure that, and she actually went to Citibank and was able to fake documents from German and Swiss banks showing that she had a $60 million trust fund, or a 60 million euro trust fund, which would be about 50 million US trust fund given to her by her billionaire father, and that all her money would come from there, and she had plenty of money to buy this building. Well, they took her at her word without doing a whole lot of checking. What's up, Citibank? I couldn't walk into a place like that and get that kind of loan, no matter what documents I had with me. What makes her so different? I don't even want to get into that. But maybe because she was young, pretty, blue eyes, and from Europe, I don't know. But she was able to convince them that she had access to $60 million or $50 million US. So they decided to float her this $22 million loan secured by her trust. However, it required a $100,000 escrow payment, which would be used to do all the security checks and everything that needed to be done, the appraisal on the church missions house, everything to do for that kind of loan. So she first had to give them $100,000, which she was able to produce a cashier's check for that made out to her from a smaller bank where she was able to do the same thing for a small $100,000 loan. So she gave them this money and was expecting to receive a check for $22 million just any day now. So she went about her business. She'd given up her apartment, all that kind of stuff. So she went about now trying to find a place to live in line with her perceived wealth, her perceived status. And let's find out how she did that. She called and made a 1-month or a 29-day reservation at 11 Howard Hotel in Soho. Now, at this time in 2017, 11 Howard was a fairly new hotel, but this is the type of hotel that's like $400 a night at the mid-level. So she was living right at that mid-level. She rented one of their rooms. It was about $400 a night for 29 days. Now, she was going to be living out of hotels, but most hotels, because I used to be a manager in a hotel, most hotels will cut you off at 29 days because at that point you become a tenant and much harder to get out. They want to keep you a guest. So they usually won't let you stay past 29 days. It's at 30 days, that's the magic number where you're actually a tenant and tenant and squatters' rights pertain. So she made a reservation for 29 days at $400 a night with this hotel online. And she did not give them a credit card, which is very unusual. Most hotels require a credit card where they will at least put a security hold for at least half the amount on there to prove that you can pay for it. She did not do this. She actually called them up and spoke to them and told them that she had a wire transfer coming to her for $30,000 and she would be paying them out of that. And they bought it. As I said, it was a new hotel. New staff, they were learning, so they secured her reservation at that time. It was at that time that she made friends with Nefertari Davis, here it hits to be known as Neff, who was the concierge at 11 Howard at that time. Neff would say, and I got most of my information from reading articles, watching videos, and I read Rachel Williams' book about her called My Friend Anna. Well, I listened to it on Audible. Audible, if you're listening, I'm still looking for that sponsorship. But anyway, I listened to her book, and this is where I got the majority of my information. But Neff said in a New York Times article that every day Anna would come down and try to start a conversation with her. She would bring her food, bring her champagne, which was not exactly by the book with 11 Howard, but it's a place for rich people. So she said, and she would also give her $100 tips just to talk to her for every little thing she did. $100 tips. She would give out $100 bills to everybody as a tip. So Neff was saying that she literally ran the place because of the way she treated at least the service staff, the bellhops, the concierge, the front desk attendants, the maids, the housekeepers. That kind of thing. She was like the queen of the hotel from their level because they all wanted to wait on her because she tipped $100 every time. She tipped taxi drivers, Uber drivers, everybody $100. So as you can imagine myself having driven Uber or working in a hotel to get a $100 tip, that's the big leagues. That's the kind of customers you want. So of course I'm going to treat them really well. However, management was not entirely happy with her because it did finally come to their attention that she didn't have a credit card on file. Now, all this time, she was living in this room pretty much for free. She was emptying the mini bar, which, like a Coke and those things cost like $6. And she was dining at the 5-star rated Le Cuckoo, which was located in the lobby of the hotel. She was ordering things off the menu because she'd made friends with the chefs, much the same way she had made friends with the people in the hotel. And she had, because of her social circles from Purple, had made friends with people like Macaulay Culkin, Martin Shkreli, if you don't know who that is. He is the farmer bro. You can Google his name. He's the one that jacked up the price of HIV fungal medications like 26 times or something. Even Donald Trump called him an asshole for doing it. He's just that type of person. But he was wealthy and knew how to work the system. And she would invite these people to Le Cuckoo for dinner and pick up the tab because she was getting information from them. In fact, Martin Shkreli was able to get her a ticket to attend the 2017 Berkshire Hathaway Investors Conference, which, if you don't know what that is, it's Warren Buffett's hedge fund that meets every year in Nebraska, and it's where only the creme de la creme of people invest. So Shkreli was able to get her a ticket to that. So she was meeting a lot of influential people and kind of learned how to work the system. And the reason she was able to afford all of this stuff is she was just having the restaurant charge it back to her room at 11 Howard, which she wasn't paying for at the time. So all of this began to kind of spiral out of control. And even though she had made a hell of an impression on these people that, came from the outside, or the people that worked at, lower level jobs at the hotel, upper management was beginning to get fed up with her. Now, along this time, Neff herself, any of these people that I'm talking about, I'm not really saying that any of them are any better than Anna. They're just probably not as I don't know, swindly minded as Anna, because this chick, Neff, was talking about how she had an older boyfriend that was rich, and she was only dating him to help finance the movie she wanted to do, because she was an aspiring filmmaker that wanted to go to NYU film school. And he was becoming annoyed that she was spending so much time with Anna. Now, Anna had made friends with all these people. She would take them out for drinks and all that. But what people didn't realize, because of all the $100 bills she would pass out, that sometimes when she took these people out to clubs and bought them drinks or bought them dinner, sometimes her credit cards wouldn't work. And sometimes she had to get one of them to pick up the tab, and then she would come back later and pay them with cash. Which, that was fine for them. They got paid back. They didn't really care. But a lot of this was happening more and more. But Neff was spending a lot of time with her. She even went with her to personal training sessions with celebrity trainer Casey Duke, who charged like $300 for a 1-hour session to work them out. And she said that she would work out and then watched Anna without hesitation book like a $4,500 12-week package or something like that for both of them to go. And so she was enjoying being spoiled by this girl who had just adopted her as her best friend. And Neff's boyfriend began question why she was spending so much time with this girl and not with him. And when she told Anna that her boyfriend was having a lot of trouble with why she was not spending any time with him, but was kind of jilting him for Anna, Anna said, "I'll finance your movie. I got more money than him. Just dump him." I mean, these are the types of people we're dealing with. So I'm not saying that any of these people that have spilled the story about her are any better than her. I think she just had a more of a grifter mindset. So kind of odd. But, so that's Neff Davis. Casey Duke, as I said, was the personal trainer. She also developed a really close friendship with her. And also at this time at a club met Rachel Williams, who worked for Vanity Fair magazine as a photo shoot coordinator and a photo editor. So this was a job that Rachel said she had worked for her whole life. She had started at the bottom there. She made about $60,000 a year, lived with her boyfriend in Manhattan. So she was very, very comfortable in her lifestyle. But then she went out to a club one night and met Anna, who was picking up the tab for everybody at the table. It was her and the people from 11 Howard. She was picking up the entire tab. She got to talking to Anna, made friends with her, and they became good friends as well. In the meantime, 11 Howard, as I said, their upper management was starting to question Anna, or asked to speak to Anna about getting a working credit card. And they even got Neff to speak with her, and she said, "Oh, my wire transfer, you got to realize I'm dealing with European banks, so Sometimes it takes a little time to get my money here. It is coming. And that kind of staved them off for a while. But eventually, on about day 28 of her stay, is when she left to fly to Nebraska in a private jet that she also chartered on the promise of a wire transfer, because she was producing phony wire transfer numbers at this time to let people know. She flew to Nebraska to attend that Berkshire Hathaway investors meeting. And while she was there, her room was locked out at 11 Howard. They locked her out. They put her stuff in storage and said she could not have her stuff back until she paid her $30,000 hotel bill. And Neff was the one that had to text her and let her know. But she didn't really get an answer from Anna until Anna returned to New York City on that same private jet the next day. She immediately went and started complaining to the management about how bad she had been treated. She had the money to pay this bill. She was going to pay this bill, and how dare they lock out her stuff. In the meantime, using reward points on a credit card, because she was also maxing, in addition to loans and stuff like that, she was maxing out, getting credit cards and maxing them out to fund her lifestyle. In addition to that $100,000 loan that she had gotten to secure the $22 million loan, she was also going from bank to bank and securing little loans, $5,000, $10,000. She was also writing checks on one bank account and depositing it into a new bank account, and immediately withdrawing that money out. Remember check kiting, like we talked about? If you saw my video on Barton Watson and Cybernet, the whole check kiting thing that he got caught up in at E.F. Hutton. Same thing here. She was kiting checks. She was producing false wire transfer numbers to prove that she had all this money, and she was maxing out credit cards. And she was charging things to rooms and then never paying the bill. That's how she was able to live this kind of lifestyle. But anyway, so she went to the W, which was near the World Trade Center at the time, and the new World Trade Center, and was able to cash out about 3 nights worth of reward points to stay there. So that was actually legitimate. But while she was there, she emptied out the mini fridge so she didn't have to buy meals. So she was eating all the snacks and drinking all the drinks that were in there and having them refill it. So she managed to run up about a $900 room service bill with the W, and left without paying it. Just left without paying it. She went immediately to the Beekman Hotel, another high-end hotel, and managed to get a room there. Again, secured with a deposit from check kiting and phony wire financial money transfer numbers, securing another room for 29 days at the very fancy Beekman Hotel. And along this time, her visa, because you remember she was coming from Germany, her visa was about to expire. So she told all her friends, including Rachel, Neff, and Casey, that she had to leave the country to renew her visa. So would they like to join her on a vacation in Marrakesh, Morocco, Casablanca, that whole area? So, of course, all of them wanted to get a free vacation to Morocco. So they said, yeah, sure. Now, Anna at this time gave Rachel, who had become her true soul sister at this time, her credit card and told her book 4 first-class tickets to Morocco. And about this time, Neff finally succumbed because of what had went down at the Howard, them never getting paid, and the pressure from her boyfriend. She kind of backed out of the whole deal and says, I can't go. So immediately, Anna brought along a videographer that she wanted to kind of follow her in her daily life, video and everything, so she could turn it into a documentary about the artistic foundation that she was going to start at the church house. So she immediately replaced one bought friend with another bought friend. And they immediately flew out to Marrakesh. But before they actually got there, what had happened was the credit card she gave Rachel to book the 4 first-class tickets declined. So immediately Rachel called Anna and said, hey, this is declining. What do you want me to do? And she says, well, do you have a credit card? Yes. She had an American Express. She said, or if you don't know about American Express, lots of times they're charge cards. So they really don't have a limit. The deal is you have to pay in full every month. So there's credit cards from American Express too that have a normal way where you can not carry a balance, but that's not what she had. She had a charge card, which means you can charge, pretty much no limit as long as it's paid off at the end of every month. So she asked her, do you have a charge card? And she said, yes, I do. Well, can you pay it? And then as soon as I get this worked out with my bank, there's just some issue with it being international and my visa, I'll get it worked out and I'll pay you back in cash. So Rachel said, okay, she's good for it. I've seen her throw tons of money around, stolen money around. I'll just take care of it. So she booked the 4 first class tickets and they flew to Morocco. In Marrakesh, Morocco, which is a huge resort center, they were immediately taken by car to a luxury hotel that was basically houses within this hotel complex. So they were taken to a luxury villa with 3 bedrooms, a private butler, all catered meals, all the stuff. They were taken immediately there, and that's where they began their vacation. Now, Rachel said they had a marvelous time going out to eat. A few more times while they were eating, her Anna's credit card would decline, and Rachel would just take care of it. Anna would just say, "Put it on my tab," and so she would take care of it. But all along, Rachel really didn't suspect anything. She just kind of went about her day. She did notice a few times when they returned to their hotel that the management would want to speak to Anna and would ask her, "Can you please provide us with a working credit card?" Evidently, somehow, she was able to book this hotel without a credit card that worked. The credit card she had given had actually declined the charges, so she was able to book this hotel without a credit card. Though she didn't do the phony wire transfer numbers, she just gave them a credit card that didn't work and no one noticed it. Well, the management at this hotel wasn't having it. They kept asking her very politely, and then finally, one morning, Rachel said she was wakened by Casey, who was very sick and wanted to go home. So she woke up early to help Casey book a flight. Casey got on the phone, booked her own flight. Rachel was helping her pack. Rachel said that she called down to the front desk and asked for a car to take Casey to the airport so Casey could go home. And she said it seemed like the front desk was kind of, pushing back, like, well, no one can leave right now. We're sorry. And she wanted to know why no one could leave. And it was because their bill hadn't been paid. And immediately Rachel got upset with them and said, "Look, it's not my reservation. I don't know anything about that. I just know that my friend here is sick. We're American citizens. I need to get her to the airport." Well, eventually she got someone that would call a car for her, and Casey promised she would pay the driver herself. So they were able to get Casey into a car and to the airport so she could get home. In the meantime, once Rachel got back from the lobby helping Casey get into the car and everything, she noticed that, again, the 2 higher management guys were back in the room, and they were kind of standing with their arms crossed, talking to Anna, who was kind of sitting equally as defiant on the couch, not really saying anything. And she was explaining to them that she doesn't know why the credit card's declining. It's probably declining because they're running it continuously, and there's been some kind of fraud put on there. She will get it straightened out with her bank, and they will get paid. And they said, "Look, you've racked up about a $30,000 bill. Another $30,000 bill. We need this paid. Is there another credit card we can put on file?" And what do? They look at Rachel. And they again asked Rachel, "Can you give your American Express just for an authorization? We're not going to actually bill it. We're just going to put a hold on there to secure it." Now, they had already fired the reservation agent that took the reservation and didn't notice that the card declined. So somebody had already lost their job over this, and these people were serious. They were talking about calling the Moroccan police. They didn't want any part of that, so Rachel immediately said, "Okay, I'll pay for it." So she gave again her American Express for a hold, not the full bill, and it, problem averted. They went ahead and finished up the rest of their vacation. Rachel left early. Anna and the videographer were leaving back for New York on a Sunday. Rachel was leaving for France on Friday because she had a photo shoot for Vanity Fair she had to be at that was being paid for by her corporate card. So she actually left early to go to the airport for that. She said she got off her plane in Paris and immediately had a text message from Anna saying that my credit card is still having issues. They want final settlement of the bill. So I'm going to let them charge the entire amount to your credit card. I will wire you $70,000 as soon as I get back to New York.
Anna aside, and it sort of is slowly escalating that there is some tension between Anna and the hotel.
After a few days of hounding Anna, the hotel had had enough.
The men just stood in our villa and they were waiting for her to fix it. And
they want payment.
Yes, they want a credit card that works right there, right now. Like, they're done waiting.
Rachel tells us she's fearful of being stranded in a foreign country, so she offers her credit cards as a temporary backup, even though she can't afford it.
I leave early on Friday morning. When I land, I get a text message that the whole bill is being charged to my cards.
And Rachel was like, $70,000. And then she checked her American Express bill, the charge card bill, and yes, $70,000 had been charged to her no-limit American Express charge card. All I can say to that is, girl, I was born at night, but not last night. You so stupid. There is no way I would have let them use my credit card for that. No way. You know, they could threaten to call the Moroccan police all they want, but my name's not on that reservation. I'm a guest. That's her problem. I'm a nice person, but I'm not $60,000 nice that I don't have. I'm just saying. So anyway, Rachel gets back to New York and immediately starts texting Anna about when am I going to get my money? And every day Anna texts her a new reason. Her assistant's working on it. There's an issue with the bank. They gave them the wrong numbers. Now, Rachel's not stupid. She finally calls American Express and they kind of educate her onto what a wire transfer would be. As soon as it's generated, a number is created that is unique to that transaction. They can't be faked or they can't be mistaken. They're very, very specific to that transaction. So her saying that the wrong number got generated wasn't holding water with American Express. This goes on for months. Finally, Rachel threatens legal action. And of course, her and Anna get into this catty fight. And Anna says, I promise you, I don't know what's going on. I wouldn't do this to you. Let's just meet and I'll give you cash. Or let's just meet and I'll give you a cashier's check and you can deal with it that way. Fine, Rachel says. They end up meeting. And every time Anna would have some excuse, I can't find the check. All this time, she's still living at the Beekman, has not paid their bill, has given them little bits of cash here and there. Same as she actually did finally PayPal Rachel $5,000, which was enough to make like a minimum payment on that, enough to keep American Express off her back. Meanwhile, Anna has filed fraud charges with American Express. Rachel has filed fraud charges with American Express saying she never authorized the full amount to be put on her credit card, blah, 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 blah. So it's just a big old mess. Eventually, the Beekman gets wise to Anna. They lock her out of her room the same way the Levin Howard did, and she's pretty much homeless. She couch surfs a few nights on the couches of friends, Neff, Casey, and Rachel. Eventually, she gets them to put her up in a hotel. She said that her money's just tied up with the overseas difference and she needs help. So they basically put her up in a hotel that they pay for and tell them absolutely no room service and no mini fridge. And eventually when that runs out, she's pretty much homeless. And she actually gets arrested because she tried to dine and dash at Nave Restaurant, where she tried to stiff them for 4 glasses of wine, 2 smoked salmon sandwiches, and a fruit cup. $200 for all that stuff. And that's when they called the police and she was arrested. In 2018, at her trial, her lawyer contended that just like Frank Sinatra, Anna did it her way, that she never coerced anyone into signing anything, that especially along the lines of Rachel, that she was never coerced into giving that credit card. She gave it willingly. As far as the banks and all that stuff, that was their own fault for not doing due diligence. Now, you're probably wondering what happened to that $22 million loan. Well, Anna canceled it because the Missions Church house was actually sold to another developer. So that deal fell through. And they had not used up that entire $100,000 doing all their due diligence checks. So they actually returned part of that money to her. So she got like a $30,000 check from Citibank in refund for that $100,000 that she put down. So that's the $30,000 she was living on while all this was going on. So once that was gone, she was on the street homeless. So that's what happened to that. So she owed about $100,000 to several banks for all the check kiting. She owed the other $100,000 to the smaller bank that had given her the $100,000 loan. And then also Rachel sued her for $70,000 for all the interest charges and everything else. At her trial, she was found guilty 4 counts of theft of services, and grand larceny. She was sentenced from 4 to 12 years at Rikers Island in New York. And her last words when leaving, "I don't regret it. I had a great time." And so she's on Rikers Island today. She has sold both book and film rights to Shonda Rhimes of Grey's Anatomy and How to Get Away with Murder fame for Netflix. So that's being developed into a TV show that's being released later this month on Netflix. However, the judge put a stipulation that she's not able to profit off that. So all that money will go to repay the people she swindled. So they will get their money back as soon as Shonda Rhimes pumps that show out. And if I know Shonda Rhimes, the way I know Shonda Rhimes shows, it'll be a good show. So, you know. As far as Rachel was able to get the hotel charges disputed with American Express, and they refunded that money. So that hotel in Marrakesh got swindled because as a merchant that has dealt with American Express, that's how American Express works. They will refund their member and then take the money back from the merchant and just tell the merchant to screw off. So that hotel got screwed out of about $60,000, and American Express gave her money back. So she was only stuck paying for the airfare and the dinners and the small stuff. But she was stuck with about $8,000 worth of charges, plus the money she borrowed from her boyfriend to make ends meet and stuff like that. And she also wrote a book, the book that I listened to on Audible, called My Friend Anna, as well as she sold her book rights to HBO to Lena Dunham, who will be doing her own project based on this story. So all these people got paid. And I guess that's what you have to do to make it in today's society, is swindle somebody and then write a book about it. But anyway, this is my contribution to that whole saga. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you so much. For those of you listening at Thought Crime, thank you so much. This podcast has grown so much, and I appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody tuning in at BitChute and YouTube. And until next time, thank you so much. Keto Comic out.